Thank you for tuning in to Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid. We're visited by our amazing guests coming from all walks of life. Want to learn their story, their struggles, and their journey on how they got to where they are today. So stick around. In this episode, we get to speak with Eathan Janney. He's the CEO at Piano Technicians Masterclasses and a licensed piano technician. He's a co-host on Run With It, a podcast that bridges the gap, bringing you business ideas and action steps from established entrepreneurs. On this podcast, he interviews established entrepreneurs about a topic successful business owners rarely get to discuss: other ideas they have, asking them to describe one idea that they haven't brought to life in detail, as well as the first several weeks of steps they take to implement it. They talk through the challenges they foresee, and they get a real-time glimpse into how they think and operate. Let's find out more about his journey. Ethan, thank you so much for jumping in and having a chat with us here at Hacks and Hobbies.
Sure. No, it's great to be here. Great to meet you.
With Hacks and Hobbies, I just loved hobbies so much, and I've gone deep into a few of them. And the reason we're connecting here is to learn a little bit about your journey and how these hobbies have helped you along the way, and what are you doing these days, or where did it all get started, and how did you approach it? Like, what fascinated you about piano? I know music is amazing. I mean, I love music, but why specifically pianos? And then how'd you get more involved?
Yeah, for sure. Um, I think that there's I'm a person that has a lot of interests, and you could call them hobbies. One of the things I've got going on right now is a podcast for business or people who want to start businesses called the Run With It podcast. And I've done things in business. I've done things in science. I've done things with music, art, all sorts of different things, and integrating those things. And one theme of my life has been learning for its own sake. I went at my first year of college. I went to school for physics, and I thought, well, this is practical. It's a practical thing to learn about. I'll go. I'll get my degree. I realized, if I'm kind of academic, maybe it isn't super practical as I might get a job as a professor or something like that. But, physics, it seems like something solid to know. And within my first year at the university I was at, I was practicing the piano so intensely that it was, I just couldn't ignore it. I mean, I had taken it up since before high school. I learned about jazz. I learned about artists, like Thelonious Monk, Herbie Hancock, Miles Davis, and Bill Evans. And my friends had gone to music school who I was in a band with, and I thought I had made the practical decision, and I'm kind of sharper than they were. Why would you pursue music? And but I just was obsessed, and I would literally stay in the practice rooms of this university almost like hiding, and of avoiding the security people. The security people go, they come lock the doors. I mean, I could say it now. I would literally like sneak in open windows so I could practice during the late night hours. I would fall asleep on the piano bench, and I would listen to Herbie Hancock, and I would be like, how does he do that? I mean, he's improvising. It sounds amazing. How is that happening? And I was just obsessed with trying to do that too. And basically, I realized I was so obsessed with it that I had to switch directions. I had to apply to a music university. I had to go there. I had to follow this passion. And and so you could call it a hobby, you could call it a career, you could
Hmm.
call it whatever it is.
Yeah.
I just feel like my philosophy has always been life. You've got one life, and when I'm on my deathbed, I just I want to find I at least attempted to do all of the interesting things that I could, and that I don't have regrets. So piano has been something, and music has been something that that I've just stuck with. You know, it just stuck with me, and I stuck with it, and I continue to be fascinated with it.
Dude, that's really awesome. Music is amazing. And when you mentioned, right, the when you're on your deathbed, you want to say to yourself, I did everything that I wanted to do, or at least attempted to,
Yeah.
right? There's a book by Todd Henry talks about die empty, unleash your best work every day. And he
Mm,
talks about, the richest places in the world are not New York, are not London, are not Paris. It is the graveyards because of all of the ideas that people took with them to bed, right?
right.
You're not going to be sitting at your deathbed saying, "Oh, I wish I spent 10 more hours at work because I really wanted to get that report out," right? You're never going to say that.
Right.
So, pursuing your passion, getting into a hobby that just brings you joy, right? Anything it is, like woodworking or working with your hands, doing programming, a computer programming, toys programming, any sort of thing, it brings out our curiosity and able to like fulfill that cup of curiosity by
Mhm.
digging in deeper. And growing up, I was the same way with technology. Like initially, I was not introduced to technology till much later, and in high school, got introduced to computers, and then we had one, and I was like, this is really, really interesting. You type a word and it comes up on the screen, or you could do all sorts of things. And it was just really fascinating. So I just dig in deeper and deeper and deeper. And next thing I know, I was assembling computers for at this computer store. And then I had all these things memorized. And I I still have a passion to, I still get emails from like Newegg. Oh, this is the new hardware coming out, and I would
Mm.
go in deeper about learning about CPUs. So anytime want, I'm thinking of upgrading. I was like, all right, let's see what's the latest tech. Let's read all about it. So I would like dig in deep and read all the articles about the nano architectures and what's happening in the world. It's fascinating, and I think what you described there, you're sneaking out and going and staying in the piano room, playing the piano, trying to figure out how somebody else created that music with that same instrument. It's really amazing because the ability to go in deeper and not ignore it, I think that's where our human, uh, the human nature, like really comes out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know you have a 2-year-old, and I do too, and I one thing I've been continuously frustrated with is there's, like, this sort of, there's this theme of, like, going into adulthood and basically turning off certain childhood instincts. You know, don't be goofy, don't make mistakes. Um, don't just piddle around doing Legos, you know what I mean? Like, and it's funny. I mean, I sit down with my 2-year-old to play Legos, and all of a sudden I'm building something, right? And I'm not paying any attention to
Yeah.
him. And it, but what I think is actually sad about that is I think that people use their kids as an excuse to get back into that mode. You know, you don't need to have
You don't
kids
need
to
to
buy.
have
You could
kids.
buy some Legos, man. Buy some Legos and start playing around with them. Before we had kids, I remember Christmas time, my nieces and nephews got a marble run game and we were talking about marbles just before
Yeah.
we started here. And it was time to go eat lunch, for the Christmas holiday. And I was still in the basement, like making this grand marble run thing. And at the time I was doing my PhD, in neuroscience.
Mm.
And that was just like it's still fun and interesting, but lots of pressure and lots of
Yeah.
mind work and stuff.
Yeah.
And my wife, probably girlfriend at the time, I forget, but like she was just like, "You need this. You need to just do marble run. You can skip lunch. Just keep
Mhm.
having fun."
Yeah.
And I think if we all had more time to do that and it was okay, um, we'd all be actually a lot better off, healthier in mind and body from that kind of thing.
Absolutely. I think what you hit on there is, when you're doing work with your hands, you are engaging a totally different of level of attention, because not only are you just thinking about it, because when you're studying for something, you're only using your brain in one specific part, but then all the other parts of your brain are like, wait, what do we get to play, right? And
Mhm.
so that's where playing with Legos is so, I mean, it's very therapeutic. I had I had bought a 3,000 piece Lego Technic. It was a Porsche. Took me about 4 weeks to assemble it, right? But it was so much fun because the first thing that because I initially I bought it used because I didn't want to spend $300. So I was like, all right, I'll spend $250. It's a little cheaper. But it was used, and it was all in bags. So now the first thing that I did is like, all right, I gotta sort everything out so it's easier to build. So that took like 2 weeks just to sort everything out. And then I was like, okay, let's now build it. And it was just fun. So now the car is sitting in a box somewhere. I mean, I know where it is, but I just keep it inside hidden, because if I take it out, my kids are like, oh, can we play with this? Like, no, no, you guys play with these pullback cars, these pullback Lego ones. And I even got the Voltron set for my son, my 10-year-old
Yeah.
year old. So he built it all by himself. And it's just, I mean, Lego is just amazing. I mean, you bring Lego up, and I just love Lego. I'll get emails from Lego of like, oh, we have this new set now. And I'm like, should I get it? Should I get it? Should I not?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, Lego is amazing.
You know what? I'm gonna show you. I know we're on a podcast, but
Yeah,
can I screen share with you something?
of
Because this
course.
is just totally on topic right now. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
screen share, and I want to show you this right now. So my business in New York, the one that's closed right now, it's a
yeah.
piano tuning business.
Hmm.
And to be honest, when I started that business, there was a very practical piece of it.
Yeah,
And I was just trying to make some extra money, and I was teaching other people how to do it, the business aspect of it. But I came up with the name for the business. It was
yeah,
Floating Piano Factory.
yeah.
And I, despite the fact that it's supposed to be there to make money, I've always thought of it as like a creative project that I could have fun
Mm.
with. And that's why I love that name.
Yeah.
Marketing people will tell you, do not name a piano tuning business Floating Piano Factory. Nobody would know what it means. Call it like Best Piano Tuners. Like that's what you call it. And I've struggled with that
Yeah.
because, you know, that's an issue. So what I'm showing you right now is I saw this image online somewhere,
Mhm.
and it made me think of like a floating piano image
Yeah.
that I could make of like a silhouette of a person like
Mm.
being held up by a piano floating in the air. And so I
Nice.
got inspired, and I just went on like an image app, and I'm scrolling through these, like, for the people who are listening, you can't see it. Like I was just coming up with all these different incarnations of like
Oh,
this silhouetted floating piano image.
yeah.
And to be honest, I got so in the zone doing it. I was like, oh man, this is so fun. I know I can't do stuff like this that much. I got stuff I have to do. And I was working on this. My wife asked me some questions. We were working on something, and I went, oh my God, I have a podcast I have to do. But and luckily it was not it was our it, there, I still had a half hour before we were supposed to meet.
Yeah.
But it just goes to say, like, I don't know, there's just something so therapeutic about doing something, whether you're doing it well or not, but just something creative that
Mhm.
like engages your this last one's pretty cool. I like this one
Yeah. That's
with
really
the
nice.
sun shining behind the clouds.
Mhm.
Anyways, I thought that would be apropos to our conversation. It
No,
just
that's
like
really cool.
there's something. I do a lot of I coach as well.
Mhm.
Coach people on how to organize their schedules and like achieve their goals. And I think that one thing I've been learning about is that we have three main, or you can think of of us having three main parts to us: physical, emotional, and mental.
Mhm.
And it comes from various places. I get it from this Eben Pagan, who's like a guru marketing expert. He does some online courses, but
Mhm.
he's got it from the power of full engagement a little bit. He's integrated some things, but he has this idea that on those three levels, um, you need to have like sort of like hard work, and then you also need to have refreshment. So for example, mental hard work might be doing your job, doing some
Yeah.
research, creating a product. And mental relaxation might be reading a book or like, doing like a hobby. Emotional work might be, okay, I have to like be on my best behavior with a
Mm.
client all day, even though I'm really angry inside and just like, and then, emotional like release might be, going on a date or sharing or getting therapy or something like that. And then physical, right? Physical work, or not work, right? Like just sitting around working
Just
at a
sitting around.
computer can be very taxing on your
Oh
body
yeah.
physically. And then, okay, so I need to go run around or I need to
Mm.
go exercise or just go in a sauna or anything like that. So it's a preface to me saying that I'm suggesting it for my clients, but I realize I need to do it for myself. I've gotten away from sort of creative pursuits for a while, and
Mm.
I realize it actually might be detracting from my productivity and business potential
Yeah.
because I'm overtaxing that system so much and spending so much time on like, how do I make a business better? And I'm not writing a song or making a picture, or spending an hour doing Legos or something.
Yeah.
I might actually be hurting myself because I'm
Mm.
not rest. You need rest. The muscles need to rest between exercise. It's just all
Yes.
sorts of parallels in which this needs to happen. So just thought I'd introduce that interesting, valid
No,
point in our
that's
conversation.
that's really really good because, like you said, you need a balance. We can't have day all the time. We have day and night, so we can rest our bodies, we can rest our eyes. The entire world can, relax, and there's a rhythm in it, right? When
Mhm,
people
mhm,
say, "Oh, why can't you be happy all the time?" Well, it's impossible to be happy all the time. You need that depression, you need that sadness
mhm,
to contrast that, to give it
mm,
meaning.
mhm,
And when you're spending so much time in just work, 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 you have to, just let it go and, and
mm,
enjoy time doing something that you love. So if you love to work with your hands, maybe you want to build something. So if you build something with your hands, if you're a carpenter and you build something with your hands and you want to relax, well, you would be doing something different by
mhm,
building with your hands. Maybe you're cooking
mhm,
because now
mhm.
you're using your hands. You're still using your hands, but then you're doing a totally different thing, which needs a lot more delicacy. Or maybe you're doing gardening. So hobbies just has a way to engage that. It's almost like you're like when you say it's like a balance, but it's almost like you are giving break to one part of your body and in engaging the other one. Because otherwise, then it's like you have a cat at home that you only pet like once a week, or
Mhm.
you're only paying attention to once in the blue moon. Well, the love that you have between that animal is going to go away because you're not spending that equal amount of time, and it comes with it's like attention. The other things need attention, and our body needs attention, and our loneliness needs attention. So it's all interrelated.
I'll give you an interesting perspective on, you know, the power of hobbies or picking something up that you haven't done before. Um, so, this integrates like my knowledge of neuroscience, but also just my knowledge of taking up things and working on them. Um, and I'll illustrate with an experience. So,
Yeah.
uh, when you ask someone, like if I were to ask you to create a list of the first words that come to mind when I say, I don't know, work or something like that.
Mhm.
The words that come to your mind are going to be biased by your profession and your experiences. And there's some famous experiments with this where like if you ask somebody who plays baseball to come up with a list of words and you say kind of like a neutral word, um, like pitch. Okay, you say pitch, and they
Mhm.
say, "Oh, bat, ball, da da da." You say that to somebody who was a construction worker. They're going to think about the pitch of that you put down on top of a of like a parking lot, right?
Yeah.
Or they just take the pitch of a roof, right?
Hmm.
They're going to go in a totally different direction.
Yeah.
And by the way, I saw this. It's an experiment that's been talked about, but I saw it happen when I started my piano tuning business. I opened up applications to anybody, even though I had a few people in mind. I
Hmm.
put an ad up on Craigslist. I put it in the crafts and trade section, and so what I didn't realize would happen when I put it under crafts and trades is a lot of guys who had worked in construction would be applying, which was terrible. I didn't want anybody working in construction working on pianos. Totally useless. But in my application, I had a creativity prompt, and it's well known that people who are higher on the creativity scale, they can come up with more words in general,
Hmm.
um, on a list of uses for something. So I say, how many uses could you have for a fork? Come up with as many as you can, and people will say, oh, eat spaghetti with it. I could make it a tiny pitchfork and a diorama. I could, remove the tines on the fork, and, now it would be a spoon. So anyways, if, as many as you can come up with
Yeah.
in a certain time, you're sort of more creative, quote unquote. Well, I asked that question to the construction workers, and guess what? It
Mm.
was all about like, well, I could use it to patch a wall and put concrete up, or like, I could use it to dig a hole for a
Yeah.
post or
Yeah.
something. Like, fascinating, like how
Fascinating. Yeah.
true it is. So
Hmm.
again, I'm making a preface, but what this means is that if you do take up a hobby and you do get involved in something that's different than what you typically do, all of a sudden your brain literally changes. Certain parts of your brain start getting stronger. Our
Hmm.
brains are associative. And so when we whenever we our memories are associative, everything we do, we're associating different things between each other.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden you start playing the piano, or you start doing woodworking. Now, when a problem comes up, anything comes up, you actually start seeing it from the perspective of music. You start seeing it from the perspective of woodworking. And so now,
Yeah.
if you've been in construction and you've been a baseball player, now when I say pitch, you're like, oh, well, that's like, you know, well, like someone like me, I'll be like,
Hmm.
pitch. Oh yeah, you've got the pitch in the baseball, and then you've
Hmm.
got the pitch of the roof, and then you've got the pitch of the piano,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so the more you take up these new hobbies and things, the more your brain changes and it becomes more flexible.
Yeah.
You can take on more things, and you could think creatively, and you could just be uh, more flexible is a really great word.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right, and that's one of the reasons I pick up so many different hobbies because somebody said, and I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Seth Godin. He's like, anything that needed to be invented, it's already been invented.
Mm,
So you've got to take two things and put them together, two great things and put them together. And what has been happening for the past 2 decades or past few years when Uber came out and there was food delivery, they're now connected. You can, right?
mhm.
Food delivery with car people and people are going grocery shopping for you. So you've combined two things
Oh, there's
into,
millions of
there's
examples. Yeah,
tons
I
of
mean
examples, right?
that's all we do nowadays. Like
Yeah,
the look at the smartphone. Like the
exactly.
iPhone was this huge jump. Okay, well, it's
Yeah.
a phone, it's a camera. It's a
It's
place
an
to store
internet device.
documents, and
Yes.
it's an internet device. It's
And
it's just combining, and then even just how do you make it? You combine a screen and buttons. Well, that had been done before
it's
in a
been
different
done
way,
before.
but it's just a different arrangement, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's a leap forward. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how Bill, Steve Jobs introduced it. It's a communicator. It's a
Right.
phone. It's an
Right.
email communicator.
Right.
And he just kept saying it over and over. And everybody was like, what? This is so cool. And that's been 15 years almost, right?
Yeah.
Almost 15 years. No, 14. So yeah, man, putting these things together, and I really like the way you think about things and getting into involved in so many different things just to you know to fulfill your own thirst and curiosity for it. And that's
Mhm.
one of the reasons I get into so many different things, because I can bring that experience back to my job, to what I do. Like
Mhm.
I was using a drill motor. I'm like, I wonder why all drill motors are designed the same way. My thumb falls right here. I can switch the reverse and forward, and then I can, press here, and I use my other hand to tighten or whatever.
Mhm.
Like, wow, the user experience of this thing is phenomenal because anybody can use it. And
Yeah.
then just trying to go back, try to reverse engineer it, like what was the first version even look like?
Hmm.
And it's just interesting to see like the evolution of things that we use and evolution of devices and technology. It's just fascinating to see because so many people bring ideas from different areas and integrate it, and we just are living in a much better world than we were when we initially started.
Mhm. Agreed.
So, Ethan, this has been an awesome conversation. I love everything about it. I did see that you have a podcast, and it's called
Run with it.
"Just Run
Yeah.
with It."
And people can find that at www.runwithit.fm. The premise of the podcast is we interview successful entrepreneurs, and what they do is they bring a business idea to the table that they are not currently pursuing, but they would. And literally, all it is they don't have time to do it, but they think it's a great idea. It has legs. We talk it through with them.
Yeah.
We talk through literally how to start it. We offer it
Hmm.
up to the listeners
Nice.
and tell the listeners, encourage them to start it. And if they do something cool, they can contact us and we'll
Yeah.
actually connect them with the guest for a mentorship session.
Yeah.
We've had guests who, have made literally $100,000 a day. We've
Wow.
had guests who have built businesses to, I'm trying to think, was it 30 million in revenue a year and then sold it for
Wow.
$170 million. That was
Wow.
Grasshopper. That was David Hauser. Um, and we're relatively fresh. And so that actually, people don't realize like you can connect with these people relatively easy if you just give it a shot,
Yeah.
take it up and start pursuing one of these ideas. So,
That's very, very fascinating because when I was working with my cousin and my friend back at one of the companies, we basically it's almost like a think tank, and we would just
mhm,
talk about ideas all
mhm,
day long. Like, oh, that'd be
mhm,
cool. Oh, that'd be cool. And I was like, I wish we could like make these ideas happen because ideas come dimes a dozen.
mhm.
The other thing that I'm involved deeply in is Kickstarter projects. I love how
Oh,
people launch Kickstarter projects. I mean, they put all the work in, and they just need that little bump to move to the next level. And then now there's other places like Start Engine and Seed Invest where you can invest in these companies and make those ideas a reality, and then get us some kickback. So that's been pretty fascinating too. So I'm always looking at, okay, what's happening, what's new stuff happening, how are people combining stuff together. um I think the latest, and then even with software, right, there's new software coming out. There's an app on iPhone called Dark Sky that tells you within the hour if it's going to be raining or not, right?
mm,
And just heard that Apple recently just bought them so they can integrate it
wow.
with our own, their operating system. So that's really fascinating. All right. So it was fun talking with you. You've got a podcast, you got a business where
Mhm.
pianos are floating, and you're helping other piano tuners come together with Zoom conferences, which is really, really amazing. Towards the end, I have a few questions, and
Go
you
for it.
probably seen the those questions on on the the sign up page.
Mm,
So
mhm.
tell the audience, what is one hobby that you wish you got into?
Oh, yeah. Now I forgot what I wrote on. What did I write on that though? But
You said something about Arduino.
oh yeah, man. I really wish I was. It's like I don't know if I have the time for it. I got into it a little bit. Are you
Yeah,
familiar with Arduino?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah, like, so for people listening who aren't, Arduino, it's kind of like this little microcomputer that got invented within the last 10, 15 years. It's literally maybe the size of your palm. And you can plug it into a computer. You can write little programs. You can hook it up to make robots or basically any little you could probably make a 3D printer with it. You could do
Mhm.
as long as you get all the pieces together.
Yeah.
And just people are known from sort of from doing some really cool stuff that integrates creativity and technology.
Mhm.
Um, so like I said, I got one. I use a little bit. I use it during my PhD to make a bird,
Nice.
like a bird robot that would tweet, at other birds because we did bird experiments.
Nice.
Um, but beyond that, like people have done so many cool things, and I would love
Yeah.
to do more.
Yeah.
For anybody that gets a chance, especially if you live in New York City, the New York University has a program called the ITP Interactive Telecommunications Program, where they focus on, it's a master's program. They focus on technology, data analysis,
Wow.
stuff like this. And at the end of every semester, they have an open house where all the students get to show their projects, and it's all like cool VR stuff.
Yeah.
This guy literally made a thing where he put magnets in his fingers so that
Uh-huh.
if you were blind, you could see colors. So like
Nice.
these magnets would somehow like there was some sensor that would sense a color and it would vibrate these magnets in your fingers, like depending on the color frequency to like a
Wow.
vibrational frequency. And like this kind of like I know from a neuroscience perspective, this stuff actually has you can literally get someone to see with their tongue. They've done
Yeah.
experiments.
Yeah.
So um the guy that heads the program was one of the inventors of Arduino. Arduino is an open source project.
Yeah.
So, I've got this 2-year-old. I went to the science and surplus store and bought like a bunch of LEDs and switches. And, I've got fantasies of making cool things for him, but I've
Yeah.
only got so far. The farthest I got was I went to the local library. I took an old cigar box and they have a mini CNC machine, and I
Mhm.
cut out the slots in a little cigar box and I installed a bunch of buttons. So he can
Nice.
pretend that he's touching, but he loves buttons. So he can pretend
Yeah.
that he's running a machine. But
That's
in my
awesome.
mind, I wanted that to actually be a machine that made
Yeah.
lights and motors go and do stuff. And I don't know if I have the time for that.
You are instilling some really creative stuff for your kid, for your 2-year-old, and as you grow and as he grows, I'm sure there will be projects that you guys can work together on. It's really fascinating to work, like, just looking at their curiosity and their eyes light up when they figure things out. It's just so fascinating.
Mhm.
All right, next question. What did you want to be when you were a child?
The first thing that comes to mind when you say that is I had to draw a picture in, I think it was fourth or fifth grade, what I want to be. And I drew a picture of myself. I was an architect and a lawyer. For some reason, I thought I'd be both of those things. I always liked building houses out of cardboard boxes.
Hmm.
Um, a funny aside from that, I would build these houses out of cardboard boxes, and we had cats, and I would build them so the cats could go in and out of them. And I was this little, like, 8-year-old kid saying, "Check out my cat houses." And of course, like I had no idea that that was like a pseudonym for like a house of prostitution.
No way.
So,
It's too hilarious.
anyways, I still love the concept, like the idea of being an architect, and I may do some. I like real estate,
Mhm.
and I would love to have just my fantasy, which will become a reality sometime soon, is to
Yeah,
have a beautiful cliff house on the cliffs of Big Sur in California.
nice.
But yeah, I still appreciate architecture. I totally don't understand the law. I wish I did, uh, but I have an appreciation for architecture still.
Nice. Talking about architecture, I just somebody shared this channel with me where this guy, he builds airplanes, and it's got these fat wheels, almost like a dirt bike wheel. So
Hmm,
then he flies off of mountaintops and lands on these flat mountaintops. So what they recently did is they bought this house in a kit, which uses a container. It took them
okay.
about 4 months to build the house,
Whoa.
and it looks amazing. It comes with kitchen, comes with everything. I was like, wow, that's just amazing, like fascinating.
Yeah.
And so a little bit of side on with the architecture and whatnot, because they got to build a house just the way they wanted, put all the pieces together. So that was fascinating.
Yeah.
Next up, what is your favorite movie or TV show? And if none, how about a book?
Oh, yeah, and I remember so there's a book that I'm really excited about lately, I think it's really great also in this that where we're doing this interview where, like, we're still dealing with quarantine and, like, who
Yeah.
knows, a recession, all this kinda stuff. So it's a book called The Last Safe Investment. It's co-authored by a guy named, Brian Franklin,
Mhm.
and, blanking on the other author's name right now, but, I learned about it through Brian Franklin, and it's just a great book that kinda goes onto a different level than your traditional thoughts about investing, like, oh, get a 401k and all. It doesn't say don't do that stuff, but what it says is like there's a lot of stuff you can do to invest in yourself, that's high leverage and actually quite simple, and
Yeah.
just walks you through all the ways to think about that and perform that and get good at things that are investments in yourself so that you're
Mhm.
setting yourself up for a better future. You know, and we both can see this right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, podcasting is getting huge during the quarantine, of course.
Oh,
But
yes.
like, this is a great investment just to start a podcast, right? You connect with cool people, as long as you can put the time in, spend an hour, recording and a little bit of time editing and posting. It's an amazing return on investment. So I don't know they mentioned podcasting specifically in the book, but stuff like that, where it's like just
Mhm.
you can do this in your life. It's low investment in terms of time and energy, but high output on the other end of
Absolutely.
things.
Another cool thing that people I don't know about people, but I was recently introduced that the state of New Jersey is looking for COBOL programmers.
Mm,
And everyone's like, why COBOL? Well, because
mm,
their entire unemployment system is running on COBOL.
whoa.
And so the other day, one of my colleagues posted this link to a YouTube video. It's like a 2-hour introduction to COBOL done by this man. And he's a programmer himself. So he teaches you a 500-page book in 2 hours through this tutorial.
Mm,
And he says that 80% of all financial transactions happen in COBOL.
mm,
95% of all transactions on ATMs use this programming language. The
mm.
entire Social Security Administration is running on COBOL.
Whoa.
Trillions of dollars go through the government system using this programming language. And even though there's a lot of furloughed jobs, they are looking to you know, um, pay people to come and help them with the system. In fact, Connecticut did a hackathon for COBOL engineers. So they're telling all the retirees because this is a 40 plus year programming language
Right.
that hasn't been, touched on. And it's so robust that, they didn't have to do anything once they set it all up. So that's been really fascinating too. Like if you have the time to go learn another language, go learn COBOL because then you can help these systems transition into other, futuristic systems and whatnot.
Mm. Yeah, that's fascinating.
All right. Next question. Um, this is a movie related. So, what movie would you choose if you got to play a character in it?
Oh, movie I would choose if I got to play a character in it. I'm not spend too much time thinking, so this might not be my ultimate best answer, but I'm just gonna say Back to the Future and Doc.
Oh man, you picked a really awesome character.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
Great
know.
Scott.
Yeah, I don't have to say much more. I mean, just
Nope,
like,
nope.
yeah,
That's awesome. I love it. Who is your favorite superhero?
favorite superhero. Okay, that's a great question, and I don't know a lot of superheroes. I'm not like a huge superhero fan,
Mhm.
but I mean, I'm gonna feel really lame, and I'm just gonna say like Superman or something, or I guess I would say, and I also don't know this character as well as a lot of people do.
Mhm.
I don't know he's a superhero per se, but like Michael Bourne, Bourne Identity, like I'd consider that kind of a superhero
Yeah,
character,
yeah.
and that would align a little bit more than Superman. just like kind
Nice.
of like a self-made superhero who just
Yeah.
knows so much and is so like in touch with like their body and their talents and their mind. And
That's Batman,
um,
dude.
that's Batman. Okay.
Awesome. I love it. All right. Last question. If you are a board game, what would it be?
Okay. If I was a board game, wow. So I'm gonna go where probably nobody else is going, just because it was something that happened recently. I was just putting together a puzzle with my 2-year-old, and I did most of the work because, of course, he doesn't quite understand puzzles yet. But I think I'd just be a puzzle, and I think that I would say that because my life has been just like finding all of these pieces that are kind of everywhere and they're strewn
Hmm.
across the ground. Like, oh, I mean, literally, I look at my own LinkedIn profile and I was like, does that really make sense? Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, this guy must be BSing me. Like, he's got a PhD in neuroscience. He's a piano tuner. Like, he started some creativity project. He did an artist residency. Like, who is this guy? It's just like made up. So my life is especially recently, because I've now got all this experience with different stuff, is like putting it all together. Like, how do you integrate?
Amen.
Um, yeah.
No, that's really powerful because it's with the experience in the different areas is when you're able to see it from a totally different level. Like something that's been bothering me and popping on my head is I don't remember where I read this, but or heard from somewhere about water and how why we need water, but there are no calories to water.
Mm,
And I started looking everything around me and like plants and vegetables and they are they are that way because they have water. Like if you take water away, all
mm,
it is just shell or dried up fruit.
right.
So hydration, and I keep thinking about okay, like how does it help the body? And my cousin was like, well, water is essentially the lubricant for everything. I'm like, wow, that's powerful. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That is fascinating. Yeah, and
Yeah.
water is just, I mean, cells in themselves are just, they're not empty in the middle. I mean, there's more than water molecules, and there's proteins floating around, but there's kind of like a soup of things. Like
Yes.
we're just there's a lot of soup going on underneath the structure.
Exactly.
And the soup is really where all of the life happens. If you don't have the
Hmm.
soup, you have no movement. And if
Yes.
you don't have movement, you really don't have life.
Yeah. Well, on that note, thank you so much, Ethan. With I'm just I'm tired, man.
No
um,
problem.
I've been fasting. Today is the first day of fasting, so
Oh, and now is this religious fasting or just
yeah,
fasting?
Ramadan just started, so
Got it.
fasting. So yeah, man, Ethan, this was a ton
How
of
many
good.
days is the fasting for Ramadan?
It's 30 days. So we fast from sunrise
Okay,
to sunset.
got it.
So it's almost like intermittent fasting,
Right.
but you don't get to drink water.
Oh, you don't get to drink water? Oh my
Nothing,
gosh.
man.
No
No,
matter
no
you
ins.
brought no
Yeah.
wonder you brought up water. You're like, "I need water."
Because my throat is all drying up. But yeah, man, this was a really good, cool conversation. Please let me know, anything that you need that I can help you with. Give me a shout out. I, like yourself, am involved in a ton of different things, right? I've got my full time job, I've got my podcast, I got these different ambitions of writing a book and doing live videos and teaching people different technologies. So yeah, man, it was really good talking with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been a great pleasure, and would just again urge people to check out the podcast at runwithit.fm. There's some pretty cool stuff there.
Awesome. Will do. Well, so guys, this was Ethan. You can check out his podcast on Run With It. And it's an awesome podcast. We talked about it a little earlier. And thanks. Thanks for all your time. Talk to you
Thank
later.
you.
Congratulations, you made it to the end of the episode. Thanks so much for listening to our guest on this episode. Please send me an email at junaid@hacksandhobbies.com to tell me what you loved about our guest today. You could find links mentioned in this episode on the hacksandhobbies.com website.